Sivaganesh, Sivaganesh,
Yes, sir.
is my whiteboard is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, students, now I'm going to solve a problem. Already we have started the periodic signals and aperiodic signals for a continuous time domain functions or continuous time domain signals. Now, we are going to solve a problem based on the same concept. Check whether the following signal is periodic or not. If periodic, find the fundamental time period. Find the fundamental time period. Now, please see here. Now, I am writing a problem here. Okay. So Ganesh, is my whiteboard is visible to you?
Yes,
Ganesh?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm trying to write down a problem. I'm going to solve this one also. X of t is equal to u of t minus. Please all of you mute your mics and stop your videos also. U of t minus 10. See, I told you several times, please try to come to the session before 10 minutes. Before 10 minutes. So it is very embarrassing situation. See, it's already 10:10. Okay, now see here, x of t is equal to u of t minus 10. Now this is the problem you need to solve. You need to check whether this x of t is periodic or not. If it is said to be periodic, means we need to determine the fundamental time period also. Okay, we need to determine the fundamental time period also. Now, see, this is case 2. Why? Because this x of t is the combination of two functions. What is that? X of t is the combination of two functions. The first one is u of t and the second function is u of t minus 10. Now let us consider x of x1 of t is equal to u of t, and similarly x2 of t also x2 of t also u of t minus 10. Now see here, so here x of t is u of t minus u of t minus 10. To determine the fundamental time period, we must consider the first function u of t is x1 of t, and the second one is x2 of t, that is u of t minus 10. Okay, so this is case 2 here. Now let us consider capital T1 is the fundamental time period of x1 of t. Capital T1 is the fundamental time period of x1 of t. Now see here, please all of you look at this one. Please all of you mute your mics for my sake. Now see here, first of all, let us consider the x1 of t and the x2 of t separately. Now see here, this is x1 of t, that is equal to u of t. Okay, u of t on y-axis. Okay, that's magnitude is equal to 1. So this is from 0 to infinity. 0 to infinity. So on x-axis I am considering small time, and on y-axis I am considering u of t. Similarly, I am going to represent the u of t minus a, or u of t minus 10. Okay. Now see here, the difference is now instead of starting that signal from 0 to infinity, u of t minus 10 signal is delayed by 10 units. Okay, that is the point you need to remember. That is a point you need to remember. So this is from 10 to infinity. So from 10 to infinity, this value is equal to 1. This is u of t minus 10 here. U of t minus 10. Students, do you understand how I am going to determine the fundamental time periods T1 and T2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now individually I am considering x1 of t is equal to u of t, and x2 of t is equal to u of t minus 10. So in this particular case, now what is T1? Is it possible to determine the fundamental time period? Is it possible to determine the fundamental time period? No. Why? Because the area under the curve is equal to infinity. The area under the curve is equal to infinity. Similarly, u of t minus 10, for this particular function also, the area under the curve is equal to infinity. So in both the cases, t1 is equal to infinity and tt is also equal to infinity. So obviously we can say that the ratio of t1 by t2 is equal to infinity by infinity, which is not determined, undefined function. So it is the ratio of 2 infinity. So that particular signal is not periodic signal. So whenever we are saying this particular x of t is a periodic or non-periodic signal, means obviously you have to understand that for a periodic signal there is no meaning for fundamental time period. Why? Because there is no waveform shape is going to be repeated. So that is why you need not determine the fundamental time period for this particular signal. Okay, understand? Everyone, please respond. Do you understand what I'm saying and how I am going to determine the fundamental time period for the continuous time signal if it is a combination of two signals? Okay. Now let us solve one more problem for you people. Okay, you please understand how we are going to determine the fundamental time period of the signal which contains the combination of two one. Okay, now similarly again in this case also we need to check whether the following signal is a periodic or not. If it is said to be periodic, means obviously you must determine the fundamental time period. See, whenever the periodic signal is determined, means obviously you must define the fundamental time period also. So without the fundamental time period, there is no meaning for the periodic signal. X of t is equal to 12 e power j 4t plus 4t plus pi by 3 plus 9 e power j 3 pi t plus pi by 3 3 pi t plus pi by 3. Okay, now this is the problem. For this you must check whether the signal, given signal x of t, is a periodic signal or not. If it is said to be periodic, means then it must be very important to define the fundamental time period also. So just now I told you that whenever the given function is consisting of two parts or it is the combination of two signals, okay, the problem is completely different. So you must, first of all, you must define x1 of t. What is x1 of t? What is x1 of t? This is x1 of t. Now this is x2 of t. Let us consider x1 of t is equal to 12 into e power j multiplied by 4t plus pi by 3. Similarly, x2 of t is equal to 9 into e power j multiplied by 3 pi t plus pi by 3. So after considering the functions, two functions x1 of t and x2 of t, let us define capital T1 is the fundamental time period of x1 of t, and let us consider capital T2 is the fundamental time period of x2 of t. So already we know that the fundamental time period of the given signal is determined by using the formula that 2 pi by omega. So here omega is omega 1. Why? Because you are going to determine the fundamental time period of only the first function. Now T2 is equal to 2 pi by omega 2. Why omega 2? Now this is completely different. So this is the angular frequency related to the second function. So T1 is equal to 2 pi by omega, T2 is equal to 2 pi by omega 2. Okay, now tell me what is the fundamental time period of this particular function x1 of t. So 2 pi by, what is omega 1? Can anyone respond? What is omega 1? Here omega 1 is, see, always whenever I asked you to please tell me about the omega, means you must compare this function with the generalized function e power j omega t. Okay, just to forget about e power j omega t plus theta, whatever it may be, this is in place of omega. Now here j multiplied by 4t means omega 1 is equal to 4. Is it not? Is it not?
Sir,
2 pi by 2 pi by 4. 2 pi by 4. So you will get pi by 2 here. Upon solving this one, you will get T1 is equal to pi by 2. Now what is T2 here? So T2 is the fundamental time period of the second function, that is e power j multiplied by 3 pi t plus pi by 3. You just forget about that omega t plus theta. You just forget about theta value. Okay, you just try to compare this function with the omega. Okay, so here 2 pi by omega 2. Now what is omega 2 here? 2 pi by omega 2 here is 3 pi. So this pi and this pi gets cancelled. You will get a 2 by 3. Now, how do you determine the fundamental time period of x of t? See here, just now we have determined individual fundamental time periods of x1 of t and x2 of t. Now, it is the time to determine the fundamental time period of x of t. X of t. Please try to understand. Okay, till now just we have determined the individual fundamental time periods. Later on, we shall combine both t1 and t2 to determine the total fundamental time period of x of t here, x of t. Now, how can we determine the total fundamental time period? How can we determine the total fundamental time period? So for that purpose, you must determine the ratio. So this is capital T. Capital T is defined as the fundamental time period of x of t. Okay, this is equal to T1 by T2. So already we have determined capital T1 and capital T2. Okay, if this ratio is a rational number or it is the ratio of two integers, then we can say the total signal, that is x of t, is said to be periodic with the fundamental time period. Okay, now let us determine whether it is a rational number or it is a ratio of two integers. Okay, so T1 is equal to here pi by 2 multiplied by 1 by t2 means here again you will get 3 by 2. Now what you will get? So if you find the ratio of t1 and t2, you will get 3 pi by 4. Now tell me, is it a rational number or irrational number? 3 pi by 4. The value, is it a rational number or irrational number? Can anyone respond?
Irrational number.
Yes, exactly. So 3 pi by 4 is a irrational number. So that is why the given signal is not a periodic signal. That means it is a periodic signal. The conclusion is also very important. It is a periodic signal. It is a periodic signal. Given signal is a periodic or non-periodic signal. See here, sometimes you have been mentioned that a periodic, or sometimes you have been also mentioned that non-periodic. Both are same. Both are, it is not a periodic. See here, I am not giving any space. A periodic means it is a periodic signal. A periodic means it is a non-periodic signal, not a periodic signal. Okay. Now this is about the continuous time signals. In this way, we are going to determine the fundamental time period of the given signal. Okay, fundamental time period exists only if it is a periodic signal. If it does not exist, if it is a non-periodic signal. Okay. Now similarly, we will solve two problems which belongs to the discrete time case. Okay. Now let us wait. I shall rub this. Now again, okay, now I'm going to solve the problems based on the discrete time case. In this particular case also, the fundamental time period, etc., the calculation is completely the same as that of continuous time case. But the only difference is here we are representing x of n with x of t. Sorry, x of t with x of n. Only the representation is different. Students, do you have any doubts till now? Shall I proceed? Students, anyone can respond just by unmuting your mics. Shall I proceed? Students, are you there? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Shall I proceed? Or if you have any doubts, you please raise your doubts also. Hello? Sivaganesh. Still some of you are entering. Okay, Sivaganesh. Hello? Ganesh, is my voice is
You
audible?
can proceed, sir.
Is my voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now see
Yes,
here.
sir. Audible,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Now see here, check whether the following discrete time signal is periodic or not. Okay. Now that the discrete time signal is be mentioned as x of n is equal to cos 2 cos 2 sorry cos 2 pi n. Okay. Now again, now see here. Now this is the problem. So consider I am solving a solution. I am doing the solution for this one. Now see here. Consider the given signal. Consider the given signal x of n. Consider the given signal x of n, and capital N be the fundamental time period. And n be the fundamental time period which is to be determined using the following. Now see here, consider the given signal x of n, and capital N be the fundamental time period of the given signal x of n, and which is to be determined using the condition. See, already we know that condition. What is the condition here? What is that condition? So how can we determine the fundamental time period of a discrete time signal? Let capital N is equal to now see here, how can we determine the fundamental time period? Capital N is equal to 2 pi by omega multiplied by m. Now this is the equation, or this is the necessary and sufficient condition for determining the fundamental time period. Now what is omega here? Omega is a smallest integer value. This is smallest where omega is the smallest integer, the smallest integer. Okay, right? Now see here. Sorry, not omega here. This is, I'm sorry, where m m is the smallest integer. Okay, m is the smallest integer. Now see here, from the given function x of n cos of 2 pi n, this is the given problem or the given signal. Now I am going to determine the capital N here. So 2 pi by, now what is omega? To get the information regarding omega, first of all, you must equate the given function with the standard function. So what is the standard function? X of n is equal to a into cos of omega n. Now tell me, what is omega? What is omega here? Omega here is 2 pi. Is it not? 2 pi multiplied by, okay, multiplied by m. Multiplied by m. This is n. Now see here, this 2 pi and this 2 pi gets cancelled. Simply you will get n is capital N is equal to small m. But you should not keep this equation like this. Why? Because here already I have represented that small m is the smallest integer. Okay, smallest integer. If the given signal is said to be periodic, obviously you must select the value of m such that it is said to be periodic. Now what is the smallest integer that I have to substitute here to set the given signal is periodic? What is the smallest value? What is the smallest integer that I am going to substitute here? If I consider m is equal to 1, obviously that is said to be, the given signal is said to be periodic, and the fundamental time period is equal to 1. So that is why I have taken that m as the smallest integer. Smallest integer means, suppose if we substitute n is equal to 0, that in that particular case it is not said to be periodic signal. If I substitute m is equal to 1, obviously it is said to be periodic signal with the fundamental time period of capital N is equal to 1 second. Okay, let us solve one more problem for you people. Right, now see here again the same one. I am keeping the same thing here. So just I am going to again I'm going to discuss one more problem for you people. X of n is equal to x of n is equal to, next one is j, sorry, x of n is equal to, right, e power j 6 pi n, e power j 6 pi n, e power j 6 pi n. Now this is the problem you have been given, and again you are asked to determine whether this particular signal is periodic or not. If it is said to be periodic, obviously you must define the fundamental time period also. So the matter is as it is. Consider the given signal x of n and capital N be the fundamental time period, which is to be determined by using the following condition, that n is equal to 2 pi by omega multiplied by m here. Okay. Now carefully observe how I am going to determine the fundamental time period for this type of problems. Right. Now see here. So 2 pi by, now tell me what is omega here? What is the omega from the given problem? What is omega?
6 pi.
Yes, e power j into omega n. So you must compare that function with the standard function. Then only you will get the value of omega. So here omega is equal to 6 pi. 6 pi. Now what do you get here? What is the fundamental time period you are getting by solving this one? So obviously your fundamental time period is equal to, m by 3, right? Capital N is equal to m by 3, is it not? Then again the problem comes here. So how to select the proper value of m such that it makes capital N is a integer? See See, always remember that here capital N is nothing but the fundamental time period. It must be an integer. You must select the proper values of M such that it makes this capital N must be an integer. That is the only case here, right? Understand? How do you select the proper values of M? That is very, very important in the case of discrete time signals. If it is said to be periodic, you must select the proper value of M such that it makes capital N must be a integer. So what is the value we have to take for M such that it makes capital N is integer? Shall I consider M is equal to 0? Roll number 227. Roll number 227. Roll number 227. 225, 18 series. See, I am giving absent for these two numbers, roll number 225 and 227 also, even though they are presented, but I will give you the absent for those two people. Why? Because they have not responded to my question, right? Okay. 19 series, roll number 1. 19 series, roll number 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, please tell me, shall I consider M is equal to 0 here? Capital N is equal to small m by 3. You must select the value of M such that it makes capital N must be a integer, that to positive integer only. Okay. Shall I consider M is equal to 0? See, you should not consider M is equal to 0 here. Why? Because it should not makes that capital N is a positive integer. And M is equal to 1 is also not the good option. Why? Because you will get 1 by 3. That in that particular case also it is not an integer. Capital N is not an integer. M is equal to 2. It is also not an integer. Okay. If you consider M is equal to 3 here, obviously 3 by 3, what you will get? 3 by 3 is equal to 1. So capital N is equal to 1. That means if you select small m is equal to 3, it makes capital N must be a positive integer. So in this particular case, this signal x of n is said to be periodic if only if n is equal to 1 second. That means if it is said to be periodic, the fundamental time period of capital N is equal to 1 second. In this particular case also, again you are having two cases. The first one is the simple case here, and the second case is the combination of two functions. Likewise, like in the case of continuous time case. So again, I am considering x of n is equal to the combination of two signals. See here. So that combination is given by e power j 2 pi by 3 n. This is the first one. Similarly, e power j 3 pi by 4 by n. 3 pi by 4 n. So in this particular case, now see here, this problem is completely different. Why? Because this is the combination of two functions. So like in the case of continuous time signal, how can we determine whether the continuous time signal is periodic if it consists of combination of two signals? So in that particular case, Now see here, consider the given function, consider the function x of n, consider the given function x of n, okay, and n is equal to x1 of n plus x2 of n, okay. So where x1 of n, where x1 of n is equal to x1 of n is equal to e power j 2 pi by 3 into n. Similarly, we are considering this function as a x2 of n. Let capital N1 be the fundamental time period of x1 of n, and the capital N2 be the fundamental time period of x2 of n. So how can we determine the fundamental time period of a discrete time signal? So for that purpose, we are also having the necessary and sufficient condition for finding the fundamental time period of the discrete signal. 2 pi by 2 pi by omega 1 multiplied by m1 here, m1. Now similarly, in this case also you will get 2 pi by omega 2 multiplied by m2, okay, multiplied by m2. Now what is omega 1 here? Omega 1 is equal to 2 pi by 3. So likewise, if you substitute the same in this to n1, you will get 2 pi by 3. That means 3 m1. Or you should forget about this one also. You should forget about the m1. So you will get n1 is equal to 3m. n1 is equal to 3m. Similarly, okay, what is pi to here, omega to here? You will get 2 pi by, what is omega to? 3 pi by 4. So 3 pi by 4, that is m multiplied by m. So here cancel this one. So what you will get? You will get 8 by 3. So 8 by 3 multiplied by m here. Okay. Now the turn is come to substitute the proper value of m in both the cases. This is case 1. That means here we are considering x1 of n and this is x2 of n. In the case of x1 of n, to determine n1, we must consider the proper value of m that must make this capital N1 is an integer. If we select m is equal to 1 here, obviously n1 is equal to 3. n1 is equal to 3. Okay. If you select m is equal to 1, obviously it makes the capital N is an integer. Likewise, what is the value you need to substitute small m in this particular condition that makes capital N2 is an integer? So in this case also, if you substitute m is equal to 3 here, 3 here. So this m and this m 3 gets cancelled. So finally you will get N2 is equal to 8. So n1 is equal to 3 seconds and n2 is equal to 8 seconds. But finally, you are asked to determine the fundamental time period for the function x1 now, x of n. So for that purpose, again, we must define the ratio of n1 by n2. So to have the fundamental time period of the given signal n, you must define the ratio of n1 by n2. Now what is n1 here? 3 divided by 8. So just you cross multiply this. So this makes that 8 n1 is equal to 3 n2. 8 n1 is equal to 3 n2. Okay, that is equal to capital N. So that means capital N is equal to 8 n1. The fundamental time period capital N1 n is equal to 8 n1, or you also consider 3 n2. 3 n2. Now let us verify how this condition is going to be valid. So capital N is equal to, now first I am substituting n1 is equal to, what is the n1 I am getting here? 3. So 8 multiplied by 3 means 24. Is it not? 24. Okay. Now you please verify that 3 into n2. So n2 here is 8. 8 multiplied by 3 means obviously it is also equal to 24. In both the cases, the combined fundamental time period of the given function is 24 seconds. So at each and every 24 seconds, the shape of the waveform is going to be repeated. So this is how you are going to find the fundamental time period for the given discrete time signal. Okay. Now I am going to explain you about the remaining types of classifications. Okay. Sivaganesh, is my screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Sivaganesh. See, here I am showing the content which is presented through the PowerPoint presentation. Students, are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wait. It is opening. See, now these are the two problems I have solved on the whiteboard here. Okay. Now, just quickly go through this. See, the remaining classifications are very, very easy to understand. Okay. Now see here. Now symmetric and anti-symmetric signals. So you can also name these symmetric and anti-symmetric signals as even and odd signals. So symmetric signals are even signals. The continuous time signal is said to be, or x of t is said to be symmetric or even signal if it satisfies the condition that x of minus t is equal to x of t for all values of time domains. That means, what is the best example for even function? Even function means even though you are considering negative x of minus t, again you are getting the same function. So x of t is a cos function. Now what is cos of minus t? What is cos of minus t? Cos of minus t is cos t. Okay. See, without your cooperation, it is not possible to deliver the content. Don't attend the sessions only for the sake of attendance. Okay. Only for the sake of attendance. Please try to get some knowledge through the PPT, PowerPoint presentations or video lectures, whatever it may be. Okay. Next, x of t is cosinusoidal function. Now this is the example for even signal and odd signals. So x of t, x of minus t, if you substitute minus t, obviously you will get minus x of t. Now sinusoidal function, all sinusoidal functions are the best examples for the odd signal. Sin of minus t is minus sin t, minus sin t. So this is how you are going to define symmetric and anti-symmetric and even and odd signals. Both are same. Okay, symmetric signals are also called as even signals. Anti-symmetric signals are also called as odd signals. Now see here, any signal x of t can be written as the sum of even components and odd components. If the given signal x of t is even signal, now I am considering x of t is a even signal. Okay, x of t is a even signal. X of t is a even signal. Okay, this is my assumption. This is my assumption only. So x of t, any signal x of t can be written as the combination of even components or even parts of x of t and odd parts of x of t. Even parts of x of t is determined or is denoted with the x e of t. Odd parts of the same function is determined or is represented with the x naught of t. Okay, suppose what I replace this, if I replace this positive symbol and a plus t with a minus t, what you will get? X e of minus t. You get only x e of t. Why? Because even though if you substitute minus t, that means cosinusoidal function is the best example for the even function. X of t minus t is also represented with the use of even parts and odd parts. If you consider x e of minus t, that you will get only x e of t, and x naught of minus t becomes minus x naught of t. Okay, you should remember this equation 1 and this equation 2. Okay, so if you add the x of t function with the x of minus t, what you will get? X e of t plus x e of t, 2x e of t. So if you add x of t plus x of minus t, x of t plus x of minus t, okay, x of t plus x of minus t, which is equal to 2 x e of t, x e of t. So if you take this 2 to this side, what you will get? X e of t is equal to x of t plus x of minus t divided by 2. What about the odd components? So if you take the addition of these two, x of t function and x of minus t function, the odd parts gets eliminated. Only you are getting the even component. So in this way, we are going to separate the even components from the function. So if you consider the subtraction between equation 1 and equation 2, the odd parts get even parts gets eliminated, and you are getting the odd components of the function. So x naught of t is equal to x of t minus x of minus t divided by 2. So you must remember these two equations to find out the even parts of the function x of t and odd parts of the function x of t. Okay. Now let us see one or two problems based on this concept. Now see here, similarly for a discrete time case also, the same signal x of minus n is equal to x of n. Okay, for all values of n, obviously that is the example for the even signal, and x of minus n is equal to minus x of n, that is odd signal. If you add 1.72 equation and 1.73, you will get the even components xe of n, and if you take the subtraction between those two components, obviously, so these are the weight. So this is how you are going to get the even components which are separated from the function x of n. This is how you are going to separate the odd parts of the function x of n. Any signal that may be either x of n or x of t, whatever it may be, always that signals are the combination of even parts and odd parts. That is the only thing you have to remember here. Okay. Now see here. So here one continuous time signal has been given and one discrete time signal has been given. Okay. Now for these particular signals x of t and x of n, we must consider, we must find the even and odd components of the signals. Now let us solve the first one. Let us solve the first one. See how I am going to separate. So x of t is equal to the given function. The given function sin t plus cos t. Okay. Now please. I shall make a text here. Now see here, consider the given function such that it makes easy. Consider the given function that is x of t is equal to sin t plus cos t plus sin t into cos t. Student, anyone respond? You, is my whiteboard is is my PPT presentation is visible?
Sir.
Okay. Consider the given function x of t, which is equal to sin t cos t plus sin t into cos t. This is the given function only. Okay, I have not made any changes to the given function. Later, now see here. Now I am going to determine x of minus t here, which is equal to, now substitute or replace small t with the minus t plus cos of minus t. This is plus sin of minus t plus cos of minus t plus sin of minus t multiplied by cos of minus t. Okay, students, please tell me, on solving the above condition, you will get sin of minus t becomes minus sin t, right? And the cos of minus t becomes cos t only, and the sin of minus t minus sin t multiplied by cos t. So you will get minus sin t cos t. Okay, now this is x of t and this is x of minus t. Now we are having the information regarding the both x of t and x of minus t functions. Now here, now see the even components of x of t can be determined by taking x of t plus x of minus t divided by 2. Is it not? Divided by 2. Okay, so this you can also represent like this. This is xe of t. So xe of t is equal to 1 by 2 multiplied by x of t plus x of minus t. Now please add these two functions. Please add these two functions. What you will get? What you will get? You will get the even parts, even function of x of t is equal to, now sin t and minus c gets cancelled. Cos t plus cos t, you will get 2 cos t. Okay, and the sin t into cos t minus sin t into cos t is also gets cancelled. So you will get only xe of t is equal to 2 cos t. Likewise, now you are going to get the x naught of t. So how do you get x naught of t? So here x naught of t can be obtained by taking x naught of t is equal to 1 by 2 multiplied by x of t minus x of minus t. x of 1 by 2 multiplied by this one. So obviously you are also having one more 2 here. So you will get only the cos t function. Don't forget to write this 2. So this 2 and this 2 gets cancelled. You will get only the cos function, which is equal to xe of t. Okay. So similarly, in this particular case, so if we consider the subtraction between x of t and x of minus t, now see sin t minus of minus sin t, you will get 2 sin t. 2 sin t plus cos t minus cos t, you will get 0. Sin t into cos t minus of minus sin t into cos t, again you will get sin t cos t. Sin t cos t. So hello, 207. Now tell me. Roll number 207 19 series.
వచ్చిన పాపం తినేసి వెళ్తారా బాబు హార్ట్ఫుల్ ఉండలేదు కదా ఏమన్నా సాగు
207. Please mute your mic. 19 series. Okay. Now we'll get only sin t. Sin t. That means, see here, cos t is the even component. Sin t plus sin t into cos t is the odd function. So any function can be represented as the combination of even parts and odd parts of the function. Okay. So let's wind up the session at this moment. Just wait a moment.